Yo, it's Trent. Hope everyone's having a good day, good week so far. I know Monday's rough, but we got a good one today, right? Well, I wouldn't say good when you think of the actual story. What happened wasn't so good, but I will say for the only time I've ever snitched in my life, it seems pretty worth it, right? But today's story, we got he brought a gun to school, the only time I've snitched, story time. So to set the stage, right, and it's a little important to know this, before middle school, I wouldn't have thought about, these kind of things like snitching or telling on people or things like that. Like if something would have happened to me, if someone knocked me over, I'd go tell a teacher, right? But when I got to middle school is kind of when everyone around my age and in the school and everything started listening to rap, right? And so did I, right? But of course I started with Eminem or some shit, right? And then eventually I started moving on to not real rappers. I'm not trying to diss Eminem there, but you know what I'm saying, right? Just different artists other than Eminem. So I'm listening to all these guys and they're like, never snitch, never snitch, never snitch, right? So everyone started listening to that, or not everyone, right? But people started listening to that, and they were like, okay, that's the way the world works, right? And then there were scenarios where it was like, oh, hey, these guys are right, you don't want to tell on your friend or tell on something stupid, then someone's mad at you, they don't like you, and you got to see it for 3 more years or whatever, right? So my whole life, once I learned about that kind of rule of life, don't snitch on people, I always took it to the heart. I never really, if I saw something, I wasn't going to say anything, right? Like, if I saw a kid cheating on a test or ripping a vape or something, I would never say anything, right? But this day, that's when it changed, okay? So there was this kid in our school, and it's not like he was super weird or getting bullied or anything like that, right? Like, he was just a normal dude. I'm trying to think. I mean, he wasn't in our friend group, so I don't really know anything about him. But he wasn't, from what I know, he wasn't an angry dude. I talked to him 3 times in gym, but never really got close, right? And this is in this is 7th grade, right? And so me and my friend are walking through the hallway just hanging out, and this kid comes up to us and he's like, hey, do you guys want to see something? And we're like, what do you mean see something? He's like, come with me to my locker. But then the bell went off, right? So we had to go to class, and he's like, oh, I'll show you guys later, right? So I stopped thinking about it. I wasn't thinking about it 5 minutes later, right? I was focused on whatever class I was in. I mean, I wasn't a school person, don't get me wrong. I wasn't actually paying attention, but when you're in a class, you're thinking about whatever you're doing, right? So I'm not focused on that kid anymore, right? I go to gym after that, and like I said, I saw that kid at gym, so I was asking him, I was like, what do you want to show us? And he's like, oh, I can't tell you, it's a surprise, right? I'll show you guys when later, right? And so we keep ignoring it, not thinking about it. And now, knowing what was in there, I wish we could have seen it earlier, right? But whatever. Gym goes. I think we may have even had lunch, right? But then finally, we had that. We didn't have recess in middle school, right? We had a 5-minute thing where you'd finish lunch, you'd walk outside on one side of the building, walk pretty slow to the other side of the building, and that would be your time outside, right? It wasn't a recess. It was just literally 5 minutes of walking around, right? Or walking to the other side of the building, and then kids would line up, and when everybody got there, you'd go inside, right? But there was a time limit. It was 4 or 5 minutes. So once we came back from that, I find my friend, and I'm like, hey, let's find the one dude. He wanted to show us whatever, right? Let's go see what that was. Because I honestly thought it was going to be like he was setting up a school store or something, right? That's where my mind was going with it. I was like, maybe he has candy or he has something, right? Or vapes, or I don't know. But I thought it was going to be something along those lines of something you shouldn't have, but nothing that would freak anybody out, right? I was completely wrong. So he waves us over to his locker, and this is wild because his locker was in the middle of everybody, everything in between rooms. The dude was not being discreet at all, right? I mean, I guess whatever. So he calls us over and he's like, hey, come here, right? And he had 2 backpacks in his locker, right? He had the one that he was using, and he had another one. And he's like, put your hand inside that backpack, right? And I looked at him a little weird, and I'm like, you sure? And he's like, yeah, just put your hand in there, right? And I'm not gonna lie, once I started putting my hand in there, because it was dark, you couldn't see inside the backpack, I honestly thought for real, I thought there was going to be a dog or like a snake or some animal in there, right? Because I was like, what would he be hiding all the way like in the locker, in the backpack, right? Like, this doesn't make sense. Or I thought I was going to put my hand down there and it was going to be like a bunch of vapes, right? That's really what I thought it was going to be. I put my hand down there and I feel like a handle, like a grip feeling, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like the grip. So I feel that and I'm like, what is that? And I go to pick it up and it's just heavy, right? It's heavy. And I'm like, what is this thing? I look and it's a goddamn gun, right? And I should have known, like, when I first grabbed it by the hand shape or whatever, but I was in 7th grade. I wasn't thinking about it. I'd only seen one gun up to that point in my life, like in my, like in my face, a real gun. I'd only seen one. So it wasn't what I was thinking about. But when I grabbed it, I was like, what the fuck? And my friend, he's like, what is it? And I didn't want to say out loud, like, it's a gun, right? So I'm like, put your hand in there, right? And he puts his hand in there and he's like, what the fuck? And he looks at me and my friend, right? We were a lot closer than like me or my friend were with this dude. Like, we didn't even know this guy really, but me and my friend were close, right? We gave each other that look, like oh, this is not good, right? Or like, this is, So we're like, damn, that's cool, right? That's awesome, right? And he's like, don't tell anybody about it. And we're like, yeah. The moment he walked away, dude, he walks around the corner and he didn't take it with him. He left it in the locker. The moment he walked away, dude, me and my friend are standing there, right? And we were supposed to go back to class. We had to sneak out of class to meet up with this dude. Well, I'm trying to think about that, actually, because we met up with him once we came inside, but there were no teachers or no kids around when he showed us, so it must have been during class or like right after the bell, right? But either way, he shows us that and walks away. Me and my friend are like, what do we do, right? And he's like, do we just go back to class? Like, what the fuck? I mean, we weren't saying that's wild then. That wasn't the lingo, but I don't remember what we were saying. But we were just basically like, what the fuck? This is serious. And I'm like, I think we should go tell the office, dude. And he's like, yeah, but I don't know if we should, right? Like, is he going to do anything? I'm like, I don't think it matters. Just the fact you brought a gun to school. Like, that's fucked up. That's like saying the B word at an airport. That's like, walking into an airport and be like, bomb, 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 Like, that's along the same lines of things you cannot do in public, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna go to the office. And my friend, I can't remember if he came with me or not. He might have gone back to class. But I remember going to the office and I got in trouble a lot in middle school. So when I walked in there, they thought it was for me, right? The teacher or the front desk lady was like, hey, Trent, go sit over there. The principal will be ready in a minute. And I was like, no, I need to talk to her now. It's not about me, right? That's exactly what I said. She's like, oh, okay, she's back there, And I walk back there and I see her and she's like, hey, Trent, what are you doing here? The principal, right? And I had a feud with this principal. She did not like me, right? But when I walked in there, it was strictly business. I did not care about anyone not liking each other. I was like, hey, there's a real problem. And I shut her door, right? And she's looking at me like, what's going on, right? Because she knew by my body language, like the way I was acting, she knew that I wasn't messing around. Like, I don't know, I appreciate that because I fucked with this lady hard, right? Like, I got banned from basketball games. I got parents from other schools mad at me. Like, there was a lot of things I did for, like, there's a lot of reasons that this principal could have not liked me, but she took me serious when it mattered, right? I walked in there, I was like, this kid, and I said his name, I'm like, he has a gun in his locker, he just showed us, right? She got up, like, instantly, had the face that I have on. She was like, what? She was like, that's not okay, where? Right? And she's like, show me. And so we go to the locker, I show her, she opens it, takes it out, and leaves, right? She's like, thank you so much for telling me this, you can go back to class, and she didn't say don't tell anybody, but she said something along the lines of like, hey, if you can keep this to yourself, that would be nice, while we investigate or whatever. And I was like, yeah, right? And the dude was in one of my last classes of the day. When I get to that class, he wasn't there anymore, right? And I never got a text from him. I never got like a Snapchat or anything being like, hey, you guys snitched on me or whatever. So I don't know, right? But the next day I went to school. The principal brings me into the office and she's like, hey, I just wanted to tell you something from yesterday. You did a really good thing. Like, you helped your classmates. If it was a real situation, you would have saved lives there. And I was like, oh, great, right? And she goes, but Just so you're aware. And he's still in trouble, still shouldn't have done it, but it's a BB gun, right? And my heart kind of was like, oh, okay, right? Like it relieved. But it gave me that like, that feeling, because it was like, yes, I did the right thing. I snitched on him, right? I saved classmates in that sense, but the fact it was a BB gun, he really was probably just trying to show off his BB gun to us, but he never said it was a BB gun, so who knows what his intentions were, right? If he would have been like, hey, like if we would have been bros with him and he's like, this is my BB gun, right? I would have been like if I was really bros with him, I would have been like, dude, why the fuck would you bring this to school? That's cool, but don't bring that to school, right? But I don't know. You can decide if you think I did the right thing or not. But yeah, that is the only time I've snitched, because I've had some close calls, right? When I got as high as I possibly humanly could at school, right? The first time I ever hit a cart at school, because I didn't know, I thought it was like nicotine, right? Like I'd smoked bud, but I hadn't really seen carts. So when I saw a cart, I was like, ooh, it's nicotine, right? And I hit it on a Thursday, it did nothing, right? Ripped it a bunch the next day on the Friday, got me high as fuck, went back to class. There was a quiz going on, and literally the words were moving around on the quiz, right? I said I had to go to the nurse, I go to the bathroom, I said I had to go to the bathroom, I went to the nurse, told her I was going to throw up so I could try to go home, right? But she knew I was stoned, and I was so high, I couldn't even control myself. I was like laying there, falling asleep and stuff. And they pulled up all the dudes that were in my class, right? Like all the guys, and they knew I played football. So they took the 3 other football players out of the class, and they were like, okay, so who let you hit their pen, or was it yours? And I was like, it wasn't mine, right? Because I was trying not to get in trouble. And they were like, okay, so it has to be one of these guys. And I was like, no. And I kept saying no. And they kept narrowing it down to the guys, right? They were like, well, are you friends with him? And I was answering every question except the cart ones. That's why I think someone got caught. But they narrowed it down to 2 kids, right? The 2 kids in my class that I was friends with, and I did hit one of their carts. And then that kid got in trouble. And people thought I snitched on him, but that didn't happen. I just got fucked, you know? I was just high as hell. And then the teacher, or the dean, or whoever was also checking out who was in the class. So what are you going to do, right? But that first one, I think, definitely was the right thing to do. But thank you guys for watching. If you enjoy the stories, you want to see them early, you want to see special videos, special shorts, or do some polls, you know, vote on story times or what kind of videos or video games or streams or anything like that, you can become a member today. Just want to throw that out there. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you ever need anything, you comment. I answer all the positive ones. My Instagram, same exact name as my YouTube, Fit699, right? So if you go there, DM me. I'll get back to you within a day or two. You're not alone. Thanks for watching. Peace out.